I am picking a fight with Dr. Mike. Dr. Mike is a well-known doctor that is a YouTube dude and social media and whatnot. He's actually so well known that as I was replying or playing the video of the Dr. Mike, my kid says, "Hey, is that Dr. Mike?" And I said, "It is Dr. Mike. He ain't going to be coming over for Christmas anytime soon." Dr. Mike was replying to a tweet from RFK Jr. I played it yesterday. I'm going to play it again. Secretary Kennedy puts out a tweet that says, "Doctors, hospitals, insurance companies, and pharmaceutical giants profit by keeping Americans sick." Yesterday, I referred to a tweet by Amy McGrath, which said, "This is so offensive. It's hurtful. I've got family members who are nurses, doctors." I'm like, all right, good for you. Now address the substance of what he said. Prepare for a similar response to Dr. Mike, who I have since discovered is a raging propagandist and a master at taking things out of context in order to promote his activist position, which is literally petitioning the public to literally sign a petition to literally demand that RFK Jr. resign from his post as Secretary of HHS. Let's listen to what RFK Jr. said, and you tell me where the lies are detected.
At every level, from the doctors, the hospitals, to the insurance companies, the pharmaceutical companies, people make money by keeping Americans sicker. And today we have the sickest population in the world. More than 60% of our kids have chronic disease. When my uncle was president, I was a 10-year-old boy. It was 3%.
We're talking about 1960 to 1963.
Around, yeah. And today it's gone up to 60%. So about 8 in 10 American kids cannot qualify for military service. We have obesity crises. We have diabetes crises. The autism rates in our population, in 1970, we had the largest epidemiological study ever performed, found that about 0.7, so less than 1 out of 10,000 Americans had autism. And today, the latest data from CDC, which is one of my agencies, is 1 in every 31 kids, 1 in about every 20 boys. In California, which has the best data collection of any state, we have probably the most accurate, so it's probably worse than this, is 1 in every 19 children has autism, 1 every 12.8 boys. And so we need to really change. We need to pivot at this agency and make it and begin at every level changing these perverse incentives which make people rich by keeping us safe.
He meant sick.
Find the economic incentives of our agency with good public health. So that
we can stop it there. You get the idea. And I'm fact-checking RFK Jr. in real time as we do this. Dr. Mike replies to Secretary Kennedy, or I should say he quote posts. What do you call it now? I can't call it quote tweeting. He quote posts. And he says, "At what point will we as medical physicians, medical schools, medical organizations take a unifying stance against Secretary Kennedy repeatedly making these ridiculously inflammatory and inaccurate statements?" And look who he tags. American Medical Association of whatever. American Osteopathic, or then we got Dr. Sanjay Gupta. Dr. Sanjay Gupta, who was on CNN, who was on Rogan, admitting to the fact that CNN was providing medical disinformation. Oh, yeah, no. AAFP and whomever else. I reply to Dr. Mike, "It was not polite, everybody. You teach your kids to speak politely until you find someone who you know deserves to be, rudely X-slapped." And I say everything RFK Jr. said is 100% accurate, which might explain the absence of a community note. If you've got some evidence-based counter-argument, make it. Otherwise, shut your trap and keep your ad hominem gaslighting to yourself. Let me go forward here just for 1 second, and I'll give everybody that tweet. Dr. Mike replied to one of those tweets, and the tweet was interesting here. Link to that tweet. He replied to one of those tweets. There. He replied with a link to a tweet of his. And the link to the tweet, or I should say the link to the video, was a link to a YouTube video that Dr. Mike put out debunking, allegedly, RFK Jr.'s claims. This is it. Let's go. We got to go follow the whole thing here. Here we go. All right. So Everything he said here, he says, sure, here's the evidence. And he links to his video. Now, I've watched the video. In fact, I don't think I had watched the video. I think I watched it before this tweet, but only because I saw he does this pretty much to everybody when asked a question. Here's a link to my 30-minute video in which I call for the resignation of RFK Jr. So I asked in a quote tweet, but then I put it in response to his. I asked in a quote tweet, although don't suspect you're going to ask. I watched your video, the one in which you demanded the resignation of RFK Jr. I'm going to clip the 3 biggest lies, misrepresentations you made in that video. But before I do, I first need to make sure they are lies first and not just grotesque ignorance. Did you watch the full podcast with Lex Fridman and RFK Jr.? You know, the one you shared the 3-second clip from. Answer, very, very, very straightforward question. I only wish you could be so fact-driven and detail-oriented when going over RFK Jr.'s statements. I do. I am. Can you answer the question? It has been how many hours? 7:50 p.m. It's been almost 24 hours. No answer to the question. I will not get an answer to the question. Now, the reason why I had to make sure that it was lies or grotesque misrepresentations is important. On the one hand, I say a lie is not a lie if someone believes it. But before you call someone a liar, you got to make sure that they're actually a liar. There's an old saying in law, let me bring this out of here, that you don't ask a question to which you don't know the answer. Everybody always says that. It's a classic, not a trope, but a principle of law. There's an exception to that rule when there is no acceptable answer and they're damned one way or the other. Hey, Dr. Mike, did you watch the full episode with the interview of Lex Fridman and RFK Jr.? Let me play the clip first because it's going to be clear, or at least you're going to appreciate the degree to which the 3-second clip, everyone ran with it at the time. And I remembered it. When you went to look for the context, you could not find anything longer than a 4-second clip on Twitter, all from the same propagandist talking heads. CNN, I'm sure Sanjay Gupta tweeted it. Watch this. Let's play this here.
However, now it's 2025 and we have a decade's worth of proof that RFK Jr. is in fact anti-vaccine.
There's no vaccine that is, safe and effective.
But that was the clip. You go online and you put in there's no vaccine that's safe and effective. This is it. Let me just count the seconds here.
There's no vaccine that is, safe and effective.
It was 4 seconds. And the added echo at the end. One would think, based on listening to that RFK Jr. had said, there's no vaccine that's safe and effective. One might not even know with whom RFK Jr. was interlocuting. That's not a word, I just made that up. I happen to because I watched the podcast. Listen to it, whatever you want to call it. Now go look at that statement in context and appreciate why they do a dishonest, hard edit at the end of that sentence. Who knows the answer to this question in the chat?
However, now it's 2025 and we have a decade's worth of proof that RFK Jr. is in fact anti-vaccine.
There's no vaccine that is, safe and effective.
You've talked about that the media slanders you by calling you an anti-vaxxer. And you've said that you're not anti-vaccine, you're pro-safe vaccine. Difficult question. Can you name any vaccines that you think are good?
Oh, sorry.
I think some of the live virus vaccines are probably averting more problems than they're causing. There's no vaccine that is, safe and effective.
Those are big words. What about the polio? Can we talk about the polio?
Well, here's the problem.
Yes.
Here's the problem. The polio vaccine contained a virus called simian virus 40, SV40. It's one of the most carcinogenic materials that is known to man. In fact, it's used now by scientists around the world to induce tumors in rats.
I mean, I try to steelman it. Viva, he said it. You're the one who's now saying context. It is painfully obvious. First of all, I was making a joke. Everybody says Lex Fridman is boring and they fall asleep during his podcast. I kind of like it. It's mesmerizing the way he talks. It's like kind of the exact opposite of the way I talk. It's painfully obvious that in the context of that discussion, I've just been locked out of my Twitter account again. Look at this effing crap that I have to put up with now. Let me just make sure that I'm not going to give any private information here. Yeah, look at what I have to deal with on this effing platform. I mean, I guess it's good. It's either automated algorithmic bullshit, Elon, fix this crap now, or I'm getting mass flagged because of paid partnership rules violation. Because apparently, when you put up a tweet that says this, thank the sponsor. Let me see. Paid partnerships start. Oh yeah, hey, look, guys, it's unclear. I violated the partnership rules by not disclosing that it was a sponsor. And so I'm removing it because I don't care about it. It's either algorithmic or I'm getting mass brigaded. But bottom line, it's funny. I get kicked out. Continue to X. Yes, thank you. That's where I was before. It was quite clear that RFK Jr. in the context was saying that there's always a risk profile to every vaccine. I don't think Lex cut him off on purpose because he is deep state. He's intelligence and he caught the soundbite and he knew in real time, oh, I got him here. Let me get the soundbite. I don't think that's what Lex was doing, but Lex interrupted him before he could finish the sentence. There's no vaccine that's safe and effective in that they all have a safety risk profile and you can't ignore it. But for Dr. Mike to come out in his debunking, and that was like one of the first highlights from his video. And I'm like, great. Now I know this guy is someone who cannot be trusted in anything that he says when it comes to anything politically related. Like, and it's only because I knew the context of that. And then he goes in to include other clips of RFK Jr. Using analogies of the Holocaust under context unknown for those who don't know the context. So it was like, that's it. I'm watching this in. Within the first 30 seconds, I know I cannot trust this individual. Everything in here now needs to be double-checked, triple-checked, and that this is nothing more than a hit piece on RFK Jr., and that everything this guy says throughout is going to be suspect. And I'm not going to go through the entire thing now. Everything that he said throughout was suspect. But listen to this, just the first 30 seconds.
As a practicing doctor and someone who deeply cares about public health, I've been quite vocal about my criticism towards RFK Jr.
Oh yeah,
I've said it on podcasts, on news programs, and frankly, all over social media.
He says he hasn't. I invited Dr. Mike. I followed him on Twitter, tagged him, and I appreciate. I've been very, very annoying, and he might even think I'm crazy, and I appreciate that. It's called OCD with Insight. I've fixated on this particular issue between last night and today. I've invited him on. I'd like to have these discussions with him. Hey, Dr. Mike, did you watch the podcast? Oh, you didn't? And you relied on propaganda? Oh, that's terrible. I can't trust you. Oh, you did watch it? And you deliberately misrepresented what it said to promote more anti-RFK propaganda? Well, that's great. I can't trust anything you have to say.
Many who support his message are frustrated with our healthcare system, with our lack of clear answers to some hard questions, with our poor communication and guidance throughout the pandemic. Know that I hear you and actually agree with you. We need to do better, and change can't come soon enough. We certainly need to be skeptical of our institutions, but healthy scientific skepticism means following data, not cherry picking it or making it up. Now, before we fact check some of the more extreme examples of misinformation, I want to show you who RFK Jr. really is, what he stands for, and why, despite some of his ideas sounding good, he's incredibly dangerous to public health.
Incredibly dangerous to public health. Accuses RFK Jr. of cherry picking.
Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is the nephew of former President John F. Kennedy. He first became popular in the 1990s as an attorney suing factories that were dumping pollution into New York's Hudson River.
That's good
stuff. However, in 2005, he began his public crusade against mercury and vaccines, and eventually joining the team at World Mercury Project in 2015, which abruptly changed its name to Children's Health Defense in 2018.
Pause it there, and we're going to stop right there. I just want to say, the subtle innuendo. He started something called Mercury, and then abruptly changed the name. How do you gradually change a name, Doctor? What does the abruptly imply? Is he trying to hide something? He abruptly changed the name of the organization because that's the type of thing you typically do gradually. You do it one letter at a time. Holy crab apples. I watched that entire thing, misrepresented the pauper argument as relates to how the AIDS epidemic got exacerbated, totally misrepresented. I'm not even sure that he read the book, The Real Anthony Fauci. I want to bring out some of the highlights of the misrepresentation. Here we go. The science is very clear. Amazing thing, when they say the science is clear and it's been proven and proven and proven, And yet, other than repeating, there's very little actual evidence. And it's an amazing thing. I'll show you what happened with Chat GPT when I try to double check some things. Let me just play this clip right here.
Result.
I don't think there's any scientific question that vaccines cause autism if you actually read the science.
If you read the science, and the science is very clear on this, that there is no causal link between autism and vaccines.
There is no causal link between autism and vaccines is a conclusion. Everyone appreciates that. It's not a premise. It's not evidence. It's a conclusion. I'm going to steel man this for Dr. Mike in a second, but appreciate that we've heard the conclusion once.
And there's been many studies that have looked at millions of children, comparing children who have been vaccinated versus those who haven't been vaccinated, and have seen that there is no causal link. When I was doing my debate with
So there's been many studies. They determine there is no causal link. All right. And now let me go to a quack at one of these Jubilee debates.
Skeptics, one of the participants said that's because the people looking at it are part of the corrupt American capitalistic system. But
So amazing tactic. Take something dumb that some idiot at a Jubilee debate, which is known for their high intellect, said, and then use that to debunk RFK Jr. And by the way, he's also wrong here, but let's not quibble over details.
then the research that was done on over 500,000 children in Denmark, which has nothing to do with the US capitalistic system, also found the same exact result. This is because there is no causal link. The only link between
There is no causal link. The only link is a graph that is very, very damning, but correlation doesn't equal causation.
autism and vaccines that exists is that the timelines sort of match up from a correlation standpoint. And just because two things happen at the same time doesn't mean they caused one another. The same way that we could look at this picture, or we could look at the trending graph of organic food sales. It's important to study and see if there is causation. And when it comes to vaccines and autism, there is no causation. And I have to say that over and over again.
Because I haven't proven it, and the only way to convince people is by repeating the mantra. There is no causation. There is no causation. Put periods in between. There, period. Is, period. No, period. Causation.
That this has been proven internationally, millions of children tested to this, and this needs to be put to bed.
You know what the best way to put it to bed is?
Result.
I want to highlight something here. Again, wordsmithing of the devil. I was a lawyer. I can think like a scoundrel, even if I'm not one. Listen to this.
Standpoint. And just because two things happen at the same time doesn't mean they caused one another. The same way that we could look at this picture, or we could look at the trending graph of organic food sales.
Organic food sales, not organic food consumption. Organic food sales. Why might this chart be somewhat misleading? Oh, that's right, because they didn't recognize organic certification until the year 2000 and then only implemented in 2002. Oh, you know what else is particularly misleading about this graph that Dr. Mike is using? Autism had already spiked before this graph started. I mean, it's wild again, and I don't purport to know the answers. I just know when someone is taking a hot, steaming dump of lies on my face, and I don't like it. I mean, the issue is he goes on in the video to talk about how consumption of highly processed foods is what might also be driving it. I mean, it's not good for your health. So on the one hand, you've got mass intake of highly processed foods, which we all agree are not bad for you, whether or not it causes autism or correlates to. So you got a massive increase in the intake of highly processed foods, while he's suggesting that there's a massive increase in intake of organic foods, but he only referred to sales. And the only reason you have that stat is because as of 2000, they actually designated things organic in the States. Oh my goodness. But no. He'll continue posting spam to replies. Before that, I just want to see if I said everything here. Causation and correlation also, it's an amazing thing because it's very, very difficult to prove causation. I mean, you want to get stupid about it. You could say, yeah, your nose was going to break before I punched it. The fact that I swung at the same time, and when I hit your face, it broke your nose. It happened anyhow. Don't equate causation with correlation just because they happened at the same time. Your nose, based on what's the type of physics? Quantum physics, your nose was going to spontaneously break at that moment anyhow. Don't blame it on my fist. It's an amazing thing when you deny causation because it's very, very difficult to prove but in the most clear-cut cases. One thing is clear. It correlates like a mofo. And I'm not coming to the conclusion that vaccines per se or in and of themselves probably is highly processed foods, chemicals, food dyes, environmental. One thing is undeniable. Autism has spiked through the roof. It correlates to vaccines. It correlates to bad food. It correlates to food dyes. It correlates to probably microplastics and a whole slew of other things. But vaccines are the only one you can definitively rule out because the studies said it doesn't correlate. Oh, let's get to those studies. I am not a scientist. I just know certain things that I've read. And you know the questions that you have to ask. Hold on, where is it? Oh, tabarnouche. Ben, il est où le... Je voulais amener quelque chose ici. I wanted to go show the degree to which those studies that he relied on. I don't know what the best studies would be. All that I know is I was informed at some point in time that there was no fully unvaccinated control group in the Denmark study. Let me bring this up. And I got to show you, this is the degree to which ChatGPT is not just useless, but harmful. I asked ChatGPT, is there any scientific study on autism that compares vaccinated children to unvaccinated children? Yes, the answer says. There have been several scientific studies that specifically compare vaccinated and unvaccinated children to investigate whether there is any link between vaccination and autism. These studies have consistently found no association between vaccines and the risk of autism spectrum disorder, ASD. Okay, and then it cites the Denmark study, over 500,000 children. And I'm more polite with ChatGPT than I am with pathological liars. I say, are you sure that's true? My understanding is that the control group did not consist of unvaccinated children in the Denmark study. You're right to raise that point, and it's a valid and important distinction. Let's break it down precisely. Short answer, in the Madsen et al. Study from Denmark and several other groups, the control group was not composed entirely of completely unvaccinated children. Rather, the study compared children who received the MMR vaccine to those who had not yet received the MMR vaccine by a certain age. So again, you don't have to be a lawyer. Doesn't mean knowing the answers. It just means knowing the questions and knowing the problems when you pick apart an expert who says, oh, yeah, no, we tested against vaccinated. No, you didn't. Oh, no, but they only received didn't receive the MMR, but they had received other vaccines. Oh, but then it gets into, well, he was only after mercury, not after aluminum. And then the doctor goes on in his video to say, yeah, no, the RFK Jr. raised concerns about some element. And then they removed it even though there was no correlation to, they did it as a precautionary measure. Oh, okay. If he wants to get fancy, you could have gone after the stat, which, and I think he did at some point, but it's also still disingenuous, about chronic diseases in children. And he's right. Maybe RFK exaggerated that, or maybe he overstated it, or maybe you need to sit down and have a discussion and ask RFK Jr., what are you counting by way of children? And what are you counting by way of chronic disease? This is, according to ChatGPT, worth what it's worth, but I go up here at first question. What percentage of American kids have chronic diseases? The percentage depends on how broadly you define chronic disease, but in public health data, it's roughly 40% of children. Am I going to believe that the public health data is going to overstate that or understate that? All right, go through here. Is that for under 18? Yes. All right. Then I say, okay, well, chronic disease, you don't really probably get it from 0 to 6, maybe even from 0 to 12. I just say, all right, let's do, what did I say here? 13 to 19. Oh, well, when you break it down from 13 to 19, well, there it goes up to 45 to 50%, according to ChatGPT. Take it with a grain of salt. For U.S. adolescents aged 13 to 19, the prevalence of at least one chronic health condition is typically about 45 to 50%, higher than the under 18 average because risk climbs during teen years. Well, exactly. What years was RFK Jr. talking about? And if he's off by 10% and that's your beef to discredit him and call him a quack anti-vaxxer by taking stuff out of context to make him look like a liar when it makes you look like the liar, you're the liar. And you want to get hung up on the details when he's highlighting a real health crisis that even you claim to agree with and want to help, but you're now hell-bent on having him removed from power. And that's all I have to say on that. Dr. Mike, the invitation is an open, standing invitation. You can come anytime. It may be heated and it will be fun. But I doubt you're going to, because you couldn't even answer a clear-cut yes or no question. Did you watch the entire Lex Fridman podcast with RFK Jr.? And I know damn well why you didn't answer it, because that would have been my follow-up question, regardless of how you answered it. No, you didn't. Well, then you just repeated disinformation and you didn't know. Yes, you did. Well, you just repeated disinformation and you knew. That is how you ask a question in law when you don't know the answer.